Yesterday I already testimony currently, so today I will just take this opportunity to testimony in English. And by the grace of God, I'm able to be back here safe and sound. There was a accident happened in Indiana that almost got me killed. But by the grace of God, at that moment when it happened, I just said, "Oh, if I die, I die. If I die, I go to heaven." So, but by the grace of God, God delivers, all of us, all the youth, and now we're here back safe and sound. So I want to give thanks to God. And today I want to testimony about my experience in the GBC Mission Youth Trip. And how God changed my plan and how God changed my heart. There's these two training trip, and start off by testimony about it. When Pastor John and Mr. Stewart received this news, they announced it to the whole youth in the church. And as when I read the papers, I thought that, I'm not worthy enough to be part of this trip. And I went to Pastor John twice, and I gave excuse, and I said, "Pastor John, can I not go? My sister is pregnant, Mrs. Shu is pregnant, Shamachi is coming. Why don't I stay and help out, in the local church?" And but I mentioned twice. But by the grace of God, he encouraged me just to, leave the words behind and, be part of the trip. So I went back to work and I requested a 2 weeks off. My original plan is that I would just take off from Monday to the following week, Thursday, and I would stay in the city, in the church, when the youth went to Minnesota. But by the grace of God, as I traveled, God changed my heart, God changed my plan. And I went home and I requested an extra PTO day. And by the grace of God, I was able to join the trip from the beginning to the end. So the plan of the trip was that all the youth who are attend the Zoom for 9 weeks. Whoever attend the Zoom for 9 weeks, they were able to go. And the location first is Indiana, where CIG Moses Church is at. And we came back. We went down to Bowling Green, and we came back to Kansas City. And our last location is Minnesota, St. Paul. And as I went to the trips, I see lots of God's work. Looking back, we did not do any miracle at all. But all we did was just go out, knock on the door. We learned it. In the afternoon, we go out, knock on the door. We shared the words of God. We shared people about born again. Even in the class, the teacher taught the Sunday school students about born again for salvation. It's just by testimony about the words of God, the living words of God. God's salvation. Many people, they got saved. Many people who are asleep, they are awake. And those who cannot, those who want, God changed people's heart. And those who don't get involved, they get involved. God works miraculous throughout the trips. And even people outside of Burmese community also got saved. Nepali and also African Americans. So many different tribes, formations, ethnicity. So praise God's name. And how did God change my heart? So when I went to the church in the Gospel Baptist Church of Indianapolis, as soon as I stepped into the church, into the sanctuary, I realized that, so this is all it begins. So this is the headquarters of the GBC mission. So this is where all all our pastors came here, and then they learned the words of God, and then they go out knock on doors. So this is where it began. God gave me that realization, and I would just feel blessed to be in that sanctuary. And by the grace of God, I also went up there in front of the congregation and testimony about how I become born again. throughout the trips, I had shared my testimony about how I become born again 8 times in every city that I went to, every church that I able to attend. And whenever I share testimony about how I become born again, I mention Pastor John's name. I don't know if he lives here or not, but I always mention his name because I received salvation, through God using him. And so in my first few days in Indianapolis, I learned lots of the words of God. First, she had Stevens, she had George, she had Matt Hannah, she had Pastor Michael, about how to win your lost soul, how to approach people, how to thirst for the lost soul. They teach us many ways how to catch a lost soul, because the main purpose of this trip is to win your lost soul. And but because I joined that trip, right after I just finished my big project from work, and also, do lots of activity in the local church. So I was a bit tiring, traveled to Indianapolis, so I did it. I was not active as I was supposed to be, and that's why when our testimony, even though I prayed before, I went out testimony with Pastor Stephen, Dorcas, and also Truth from Indiana, Fort Worth, and also, and so when I went out testimony in the first 3 days in Indiana, somehow I see that, I did not walk with God under these 3 days. I did not catch any fishes. I did not catch any fish. And on the last day in Indiana, after I went out at witnesses, I cried. I was very sad. I cried, say, I have been here for a few days, but I did not catch any fish. I disappointed myself, and I cried in the bathroom. I didn't show it to anybody else. I was very sad, and but I prayed to God. I was very sad at the same time, but I prayed to God, and the following at night too. And when I went back to the house, I was very sad. But the following day, before on our way down to Bowling Green, while riding in a van, I was still sad, and I prayed to God in my heart, and I asked myself, what did I miss? I learned a lot from the pastor, Shamat, all the teachers, but what did I miss? Well, I was not able to catch a lost soul, and realized that I did not, submit myself to God, and I didn't, love. I don't have the love in me when I go out and share the words of God, and I don't depend on God. I was just excited to be there. At the same time, I was tired from work previously, and so we went down to Bowling Green. I was very excited to see the believers there. At the same time, I'm very shameful. And I thought that, I am about to go and meet the believer there, my relatives. Over there, I'm excited. Somehow I feel shameful because, they already ahead on me. They already win a lost soul. They already plan to see. But what about me? Why am I here for? I disappointed myself. Lots of questions comes to my mind. And finally I understand. So this is how it will be like when I get to heaven. This is the lesson I learned. God saved me from hell. He cleansed my sin. But while I was alive, I don't do His work. And one day when I get to heaven, God gonna ask me, where are their blood? And I think about this. My heart's crying. And I learned that, I missed out a lot. All the time that God gave me, all the day that God gave me, I used it for the worldly things. I thought that I got involved in the church, I love God, but actually I did not do much for God's kingdom. For people to be able to go to heaven, I did not do much. I realized my sin, and after I read Proverbs chapter 2, and after I came to realization, I prayed to God, I repent for my sins, I submit to God, and I pray that God will use me as I continue the journey, be part of this GBC mission trip, youth trip. And as we went down to Bowling Green, and I got paired up with Ruth, and we went out and knocking door to door. And I think it's God's plan too, because the address they give us is the wrong address. I don't know how it happened, but it was the wrong address. And we knocked on that door, and they did not accept us. But when the youth who dropped us off was already gone, so Ruth and we stuck in that street. It's very hot. It's hot outside. It's just Ruth and I. And I realized, so this is how our pastor went through. They don't know all English. They don't know all Korean. Some of them don't know all the language at all. But how they're able to catch lots till now is because they submit to God and they walk by faith, not by sight. God always teach me step by step, day by day, as I be part of the journey in this trip. And that gave me the courage that, that's okay. We walk by faith, not by sight. I said that to Ruth, and we knock on door and door. Even though the door was not open, we were not sad at all. But as we walk, there's two side row. On our right side, there is Americans, youth, kids, ride a bike running towards us. On the other side, we have a Burmese woman, a lady, pushing his kids on the wheel come towards us. We were debating, which road to take, and we said, let's just go to her, see how it would turn out. So we went to her, and by the grace of God, we went up to her, and I was able to use my Burmese a little bit. My expectation that, when I go down to Bowling Green, most of the believers were Korean, so I'm able to use my Korean again. I was very excited, but turned out I had to speak in Burmese. So when I met that, woman, I was able to speak with her in Burmese as well as Ruth. And she was able to understand what I was saying and all my questions, and she was able to fit into conversation with us. And she invited us into her house, and we just said, we come here to to encourage the words of God and I pray for you for a little 15 minutes. But that 15 minutes turned to 2 hours and a half. I don't know how it happened, but it turned into 2 hours and a half. But first, Ruth, testimony about how she. It was all in Burmese, how what she learned and she shared in the house. And after 15 minutes, she gave it to me. She allowed me to share testimony. So again, I used my Burmese again, and she understood. But as I was able to go over salvation, it did not come out. So by the grace of God, Ruth, interpreted for me into Burmese, and I shared with her about the timeline and asked if she's assured that she's going to be part of the rapture. She said she's not sure, and we went back to be born again. And I asked her to just examine, okay, does she know that when Christ died on the cross, did he die alone? He said no, so that means she needs to be born again. And we share about her be born again over and over again 4 times. And every time, she understood, she finally understood it. She confessed that, she's now born again. She's no longer Seth's children, no longer Adam's children, no longer sinner. She's now born again. She's now God's children. Her name is in the book of life. And she confessed that she'll be part of the rapture. So we're just so happy. And so happy to the point where I was no longer hungry that day. But because the church feeds, so we had to eat, so I would just eat it out of courtesy. And when I went on the stage, I was not worried at all how my professional English turned out to be. I was just happy to be on the stage, share how the day went, say we praising God, so give thanks to God. And from that day, I learned that be part of God's ministry, catching lost souls, is not about how well we communicate. It's not about how many Bible verses we know. It's not about what how much we know about the words of God, but it's actually how we submit to God, how we allow God to use us, how we depend on God, how we thirst for the lost soul, how we see the spiritual necessity. That's something that I learned, and from that day, the way that I see is totally changed. And as I learned in the training, and also during the sermon at night to worship, I learned lots of different things. Time is near. We live in the last day. And what caught my attention is in Matthew chapter 9, verse 37. Matthe까지 go up on ye those say those Matthew chapter 9 verse 37 to 38. It says, Then he said to his disciples, the harvest truly is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore pray the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest. So this verse is what stood out to me personally. Every church that we went to, there's lots of adults, youth, teenager, who's in the church but they're not born again. People who are going astray, but they're not born again. Some people out there, they went to a different congregation. They were filled with the false doctrines, but after they come to GBC, they learn the truth, but somehow they're not sure. And the lesson learns that not only people out there that we work on our door, but even the church that we visit, they are still lost. But the laborers are few. Now, what about I? What about myself? What about myself? I ask myself. And also, there's lots of questions I ask, but every time I read Bible, God asks me through the Bible. And the next day when I went to church, morning devotions or night services or during the training, God used a teacher to answer my prayer, answer my questions. And the lesson I learned is that time is very near. Jesus Christ coming soon. People are lost. People are there, they are spiritually sick. They need to be healed. They have diseases. Just as Jesus Christ, he was compassionate for people physically, but if you read carefully, he's actually referred to spiritual too. Even in this church, people, come to church every week, but just to show their face, but spiritually, they are blind. Their name is not in the book of life yet. And, we cannot depend on Pastor John Michu forever. They need help too. And not only that, one day they will be passed away. And the future have to hold on to this truth, this strong foundation. And so, what about me? That's the question I ask. Even though I have lots of weaknesses, I may not know all the Bible verses, but if I submit myself to God, if I fear God, if I love God, if I love the lost soul, God can use me too. That's something I realize. And no matter what, I will have to continue the journey. And I even testimony will agree that, no matter what people are saying around us, they might fall, they might do something, say something or what, I cannot look at them left or right, backward, I cannot look at them anymore. I have to continue to go forward to the race. That's something I put in my heart. And I went home as, right after Tuesday training, during witnesses time, I just went home, locked my door, and request extra PTO day. And I also submitted my 2 weeks notices, and I said myself, I will follow Jesus Christ. Sorry, I got a little bit emotional here, but I will follow Jesus Christ. I have wasted my I have wasted my life for the world. Why not serve for God anymore? That's something that I come to realization that why not suffer for God? God can use me too. God loves the lost soul. I love the lost soul too. Why not dedicate all my time for God's kingdom, and then God will use me, as long as I submit myself, even though I don't know everything yet. So that's the day that I come to realization that I need to fully submit to God. I cannot love the world anymore. I cannot give all my time to the world anymore as I suffer for the world. Why not suffer for Christ? It's more blessings, not only for physical, but my next few generations. Not only that, for the lifetime in heaven. this just something that God spoke to me using the teacher. I worried too, how will my parents live, but before I was born, God already feed them. God take care of them. So yeah, I question a lot too. I had double mind. I asked God, am I not worthy for your kingdom? Can you give me a revelation that can be part of your kingdom? I asked that question as the next morning I woke up, and then somehow I was able to open the Bible to Matthew chapter 10. God's asking me, if you love your parents, more than me, you're not worthy of me. It's like God spoke to me. Wow. So this is what it is. I have to, lay down my life and then, follow God. God will make a way no matter what happens. God will make a way. A lot of thought coming to my mind, but at the end, it's just God that changed. As I went on the trip, I learned a lot, and I just asked God, change my heart, change my plan. This is not something that my flesh and my heart can support me in. This is your will, if you will, change my heart and change my plan. I pray to God. And even, the youth too, as we travel, they make a joke and they sing a song, change my plan. Oh God, change my heart. Oh God, we sing that song, but every time they sing that, it's for me, it's for me. And in the end, I just decided that, time is very near. While I'm still actively can serve God in this moment, I'm actively can serve the God. Let me just dedicate my life to God, and I just confessed to God, personally. And when I came before, I decided that before I came back to Kansas City. As I came back to Kansas City, I see my mom, sit down on the chair and pray, read the Bible. And as soon as she saw the van, she ran back inside the church. And when I went back into the church, shake their hands, and the way that I see my parents, the way that I see my sibling, the way that I see, people I used to know, it's just so different. So different. And even though I am back in Kansas City, I don't feel it's my home anymore. I feel I'm just a guest. For I know that, not only my home is in heaven, but this is not my will anymore. I have decided to follow Jesus Christ. My heart just changed. My plans all just changed. All the plan I have just changed. And so I just decided I will follow Christ. And no matter what happened, if I go hungry, I will go hunger. No matter what temptation come, God will deliver my heart. God will guard my heart. I had that faith. But God will not, let me go hunger. God will wash over me. No matter what, God will guide me as long as I submit to God. As long as I fear Him, I love Him. I love the lost soul. As He loved the lost soul, God will make a way for me to be part of His kingdom ministry. That's something that I have decided I want to share with you all today. But I don't know if you can see, but one day you will know what I mean. But I want to come back here. Truly, I'll be going out of town again. So I don't know how it happened, but this whole summer, I'm barely home. But by the grace of God, just give thanks to God that even though I'm not worthy, I was able to be part of that trip. I also asked God, why me? God, why am I here? Why am I able to learn this information that I'm not worthy for? People out there, they're longing for your word. They want to grow in spiritual, but why me? But the more that I feel I'm not worthy, the more, God saying to me that, it is what it is. It is my calling for you. So I just give thanks to God that, God changed my heart. God changed my plan. God changed my vision. Even though, all the worriness that I had, I pray to God, God deliver me, and I'm able to be here with boldness, with confidence to give thanks to God, praise God, and also mention that I have decided to follow Jesus Christ. May God bless you all, and may God name be praised.